Well, thanks for coming back to the Bigfoot Society podcast. I have the privilege of having Kathy Strain with me tonight, and we are going to talk about Bigfoot and all sorts of stuff as usual. Kathy, do you mind telling a little bit about yourself to the listeners?
Oh, sure. I am a professional archaeologist. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in anthropology, and I'm currently the forest archaeologist and tribal relations program manager for the Stanislaus National Forest in Central California.
Wow, that is amazing. So out in California now, is that in what section of California is that in? Northern, southern?
We're sort of in the middle. So if you do, you know where Yosemite National Forest?
Oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yep.
we live right adjacent to it. So the National Forest is
Oh wow.
basically adjacent to Yosemite and then over from there. So it's
I'll tell
beautiful.
you what, that area is intense.
Yeah.
I went out there for a used to work for Apple, and I had training out there. And for a weekend, we went out and went in Yosemite, and it's crazy out there. Like you lose all cell service an hour outside the park. It was
Oh, yeah.
intense.
Oh,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was very cool.
Yeah, I barely have cell coverage at my house. I mean,
I
and I
bet.
no, we are a very rural county, and so, very, we don't, have much of, way of I think the whole county's only got, like, maybe 50,000 people in the entire county, but, yeah, it's all wooded. We've got beautiful um, trees and scenery, and it's just a gorgeous place
Yeah.
to live and be. And of course, it's Bigfoot territory because there's not many of us to bug him. So
So here's the interesting thing about that because so we a group of us, of course, from Cupertino had taken a oh man, it's one of those little electric cars, and we had no idea what we were in for, and it was just like it was barely getting up the hills, right?
mhm.
But man, this is before I was into Bigfoot, so this is a few years back, really into it, and I remember we had stopped at an Outlook, and it was just like pure sky, stars, all that. We get back in the car and we were starting to drive off. But I remember like looking out into the dark of the woods and I'm like, man, it just feels like there's something out here right now. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, you could walk a minute out there and not be able to come back in. Like
Oh yeah,
it's the craziest thing. It's so hard to explain until you experience it, but
yeah. Well, it's
so
beautiful.
cool you get to live there.
Yeah, it's beautiful but remote, and you definitely have to get used to it. And then it is kind of funny when you run into tourists and they think
Hmm.
they're in the wilderness because their cell phone doesn't work, and you're just like, no, close to being in the wilderness. If you have a road, you are not in the wilderness. So it is a great privilege, and been here a very long time, and we're going to retire here. So
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, we stayed at a really cool resort called like the Yosemite Bug or something. It was really cool. But um, can you explain a little bit more about what it entails? Your being the is tribal relations programs manager out there. What
yeah.
that exactly entails.
So for the forest archaeology part, I'm in charge of every before we do a project, before we cut a tree, before we build a new campground, we have to survey it for the presence of archaeological sites, so either
Wow.
historic or Native American. And so I have employees that help me do that. So it's not me personally doing it because it would never get done if it was up to me. So and then
Right.
I'm in charge of all those sites, management of them. The artifacts that are collected are part of our program, historic maps, photographs, that kind of thing, so that we're keeping history for the future. So that's our main job, is to try to preserve this stuff. And with tribal relations, my job is to work with the tribes that live here and call the Stanislaus National Forest their ancestral lands, make sure that their needs are met, like if they need to go gather, or they have another need, or they want to comment on something that we're doing. And they have some very special sites
Hmm.
that are out there that we also manage with them together. And so it's a great job in the sense of I've known most of these tribes for 20 plus years, and so they're more like friends now after all this time.
Okay, yeah,
So,
that's cool. I
yeah,
love
and
it.
so yeah, it's just I really enjoy what I do, and I really enjoy helping tribes that they have a need. And I keep a list where all these plants are. So in case somebody needs an easy way to get to willow or an easy
Hmm.
way to get to frackenfern, I can't believe I was going to say that, frackenfern, or other gathering.
You're
So
fine. I would have never noticed it. You're good.
that was funny. But so anyway, I just kind of, that's what I do for them. I basically, my role is to help support them in their tribe and how they traditionally lived and continue as much of that as possible.
That is so cool. Man, what an awesome opportunity. Like I would say not many people get to be boots on the ground like that for sure. But uh when you started this, so was the being into Bigfoot before or did it come after you
It
got
was
into that?
before. So I
Ah,
became an anthropologist because of Bigfoot. It's all
I
his.
love it.
So I saw a documentary. Well, it's not a documentary. I saw a film that I thought was a documentary at the time, but Legend of Boggy Creek.
Yeah, sure.
And it had a huge influence on me.
Okay.
And so both it frightened me, but it was interesting that maybe there was something out there that we didn't know what it was, or science didn't know what it was, but people were seeing it. And my grandfather is from the Arkansas area, and he used to tell me about this thing they called, I remember now, Red River Monster or something to that effect. And
Okay.
it just drew my interest. And so I then asked, I think I was in fifth grade, but my mind is, the older you get, the more of those young things you forget.
Yeah,
But
tell me about it. Yeah.
yeah, so I think it was around fifth grade. I asked my teacher, what do I have to do to study Bigfoot? And she goes, well, I'm pretty certain you have to be an anthropologist. And that's all it took. I was just, that's
Wow.
where I'm heading. Always was my pathway. But to be also fair, my family traveled a lot. We never went to like Disneyland or
Mhm.
anything like that. When we went on vacation, we went on 2 weeks worth of driving through the states and staying in national parks and
Yep.
national forest and camping. And so that was already a big part of my life then. So it was a natural fit, and then I figured it out when nobody's going to pay me to study Bigfoot. So I, what am I going to do now? And then, but I always loved history and archaeology and all that stuff. So it was easy fit, and it was interesting that that's my my foray into Bigfooting and kind of officially um, was with a tribe and what their traditional beliefs were when I was working in a different part of California, and that's where my passion for Native American viewpoints on Bigfoot came from, is that, that
Mm.
influence of Bigfoot's really important to us, the tribe, and here's some interesting things that maybe you don't know. And the local tribe here has tons of stories about what Bigfoot is to them, and his name is Yayali here in Tuolumne County. And
Can
so
you say that one more time? Sorry.
Yayali.
Yaya Lee. That is
Mhm.
cool. I love it. Wow. Awesome. I'm totally I've never heard that. Like that is really cool.
Oh yeah,
It's got a very interesting sound to it. That's
yeah.
cool.
There's almost every tribe in the United States, Alaska, Canada have a traditional Bigfoot story and have
Oh.
traditional names. And I actually am the author of a book that is a collection of those stories. And so, and there's a neat little appendix that has the traditional word for Bigfoot for that tribe and then what it means. What's the translation of it?
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And that book is called Giants, Cannibals, and Monsters, correct?
Yes. Bigfoot and
Yep.
native culture. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, do you find that most tribes view Bigfoot then as like a protector, or is there um, what's more the viewpoints? Are they more similar across the tribes, or do you find it's differing as well?
Well, that's why my title of my book is that way. Is that some
Ah,
tribes see him as just a giant, just a brother,
okay.
not human, and then in a lot of stories he's a cannibal. And
Hmm.
so those are the most prevalent, at least here. Um, Basically, let's say West Coast kind of thing. Although there's others in other places in America, but it's very prevalent in California, Oregon, Washington, and going into British Columbia. It's the
That
most
makes sense.
common story you'll find. Yeah.
Okay. You find that though that this these stories of Bigfoots they spread across all the tribes, even the ones out on the eastern coast, or
Well, you got to remember these stories are hundreds of years old, and so
true.
there's no internet, no phones, and so no,
That's true.
they're very. The book is broken up into what we call cultural areas, is what
Okay.
anthropologists use, and so um, California has its own cultural area, and so
Ah,
California stories are very similar, but Pacific. Northwest, that's a cultural area, and their stories are very similar and not really like the ones in California. And so then you have like the South have very similar stories, but they're nothing like, they may have some commonalities, but most of the time they're specific for their region. So, for example, eagle is a very common um, character in a story because
sure.
eagle. But just because they all have eagle means they all saw an eagle and felt that it was regal and imparted that, but and they'll incorporate them into the stories. But then that's generally, it's not because they heard from another tribe that eagle is important. They on their own, that's part of their culture that they believe for thousands and thousands of years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Let's go back to you're going through all your schooling. You're getting into the place where you want to be. You're like, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer to where I've spent all this time through schooling to get to this place. Do you remember the first time where it's like you had that? You're like, oh, I'm in position to get this amazing Bigfoot information. I see this amazing Bigfoot evidence, or like when it was like I made it.
Well, I mean, I knew working with, I was born and raised in Porterville, California,
Okay.
and that is the Sequoia National Forest, and that's where I
Ah.
started my career. And I worked very a lot with the Tule River Indian Reservation and that tribe, which have the painted rocks there that's known as the Hairy Man pictographs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the cover of the book, and
Yes.
that's where my original foray into sitting with the elders and them conveying to me what their traditional belief in Bigfoot was. And so, and that's when I first kind of went, this is cool, and I can talk to Native
Yeah.
people about this. But I didn't
Oh
really,
man.
I didn't really. Right after I left that position, I then was promoted to a job in same with the Forest Service, but it was based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And so
Ah.
you don't meet a whole lot of Bigfoot stories or tribes of Bigfoot there. And so I kind
Probably
of,
not.
yeah, waded through that. And it was really when I came to this national forest, and I believe I came in 1998.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh, was it 19? Yeah, I think it's 1998. And I also have to explain computers. I know to many people are everywhere, ubiquitous. You got one on your phone, you got them everywhere. Well, when
Mm-hmm.
I started, we didn't really, computers were that foreign thing that cost a lot of money. And so you had one and you all shared it.
Mm.
So when I was, the first time I really got a computer that was really just dedicated to my use was when I came to this Stanislaus National Forest.
Wow.
And so, and then internet became more prevalent and whatever. Because back in the days, we used to have these little weird, I don't even know what they're called anymore, but they were like maybe a chat thing, and you had threads and stuff, and it was, you know,
Yeah. What's it called? Like forums or whatever. Or, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It escapes me right now. Yeah.
I can't think of the name.
Yep.
It's so long ago. Of course, in my day, when you deleted something, you had to hit three keys plus five, everything. It was amazing. I don't know how to survive back then, but we did.
I know,
But
right?
yeah, so we had them more widespread when I got here, and one night I was had some time and nobody was around, and I hadn't wasn't ready to go home yet, and I brought up the internet and I typed in Bigfoot,
Mm.
and I was just blown away that there
Yeah.
was information on the internet. And one of the first things or groups I found was the BFRO.
Of
And
course.
so
Yep.
that was my real foray of um, getting to know that there were other people like me, because I thought I was a weirdo, that I'm the only person on earth who believes in Bigfoot. And then here
Mhm.
it is. I find this whole entire group with tons of people in it. And I was just like, that I think is the day I kind of went, oh my gosh, I'm not alone, and I can interact with these people, and I can find out more data, but plus also approach it from a scientific
Yes. Yeah.
viewpoint, because I had known that there were people out there, we see them on the news and stuff, and they just sounded like they were drunk, and they saw a bear and they couldn't tell the
Mhm.
difference, and so here was this
Yep.
opportunity to meet other scientists, because Krantz was in that group, and Meldrum, and quite, I mean, a lot of people that are just lifelong friends for me were in that group. And so that was the day I think I said, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm staying put here, and this is what I'm going to do.
Wait, did you say you had so you had dealings with, you said Grover Krantz?
Yeah. Yeah. He was
Really?
still alive then. Yes.
Oh man, see that just blows my mind because like um I'm still very new to all this. And when
Oh,
I think of guys like that, it's like, they were back then, we didn't have access to them, but like to be able to talk to someone like you who was almost in that like um that period of time where you had access to some of
oh
those,
yeah.
greats of the field, like that's awesome.
Yeah. John Green was in that
Oh
group.
man. Yeah.
Lauren Coleman, I think. Peter Byrne wasn't, but Peter Byrne I know from a different avenue. So yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to literally everybody, but I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, mostly because they're always curious of, how does it work that you're a professional, I work for the government, and
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm a Bigfooter too. How does that work, kind of thing? And so it was just in good
Yeah.
advice on, just to always take it from a scientific approach, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't think what you're looking at is evidence. I think you're misinterpreting this because of
Hmm.
XYZ. So just those kinds
Interesting.
of very helpful words that are have lasted a lifetime for me. So
That is cool. That's cool. Um, and so your husband's name is Bob, right?
yes.
Yeah, and he's also very involved with into Bigfoot as well.
Correct.
That correct? Yeah,
Yeah,
which that I think is awesome. Like,
well, I met him at a Bigfoot conference.
oh,
That's how.
did you?
Yeah, so
Oh,
this
that
is
works. Yeah.
yeah, it works. It was my first time I had finally decided I was going to speak at a conference, and that was in
Hmm.
2003.
Okay.
And it was the International Bigfoot Symposium. It was a huge deal.
Hmm.
Jane Goodall was slated to be there, but she
Oh.
couldn't, and I believe she
Oh
sent
man.
a film for us to watch. And you had, I'm not going to get everybody's name right, but John Green spoke, gave a keynote. Dimitri, ooh,
Yeah, that one's a tough one.
I
I'll let
can't
it slide because I couldn't say it either. So you're good. Yep.
Igor was there, and there was, I mean, it was a huge deal. And so I gave a paper there.
Oh,
And it
cool.
was my first time that I was publicly, coming out of the closet
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
saying, I'm a Bigfooter, people, hear me roar.
Wow.
And so that was a fantastic conference. It truly, truly was. In fact, I don't think I've ever been to one that was equally as good, except for maybe the Yakima Roundup for Bob Gimlin. That's
That sounds
outstanding.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So was that conference up in the Northwest then, or?
yeah, Willow Creek.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, I
Yeah,
mean,
just right.
the first one, or both of them, or the first one?
Oh no, the first one was in Willow Creek,
Okay.
um, the International Bigfoot
Hmm.
Symposium, because that was when we went down to the film site of the Patterson Gimlin film, and
Oh,
Gimlin was there, and that's the first time I met James Bobo. Um,
yep,
Met him
yep.
there. He almost killed me, but that's another story. Um, but the Yakima Roundup was in Yakima, Washington.
Okay, yeah,
That's
right.
where Bob Gimlin lives. So that was
So you met your husband there. You just random Bigfoot guy came up to you, or?
no, no, no. He didn't. He only briefly talked to me.
Okay.
It was really later that we got together, but he he was a fan of mine from, I handled all of basically Northern California Bigfoot sightings for the BFRO. And
Ah,
so
okay.
he was a huge fan of going to the BFRO and looking at the new reports. And I really did a lot of work. And so he knew my name. And so that's
Okay.
first time I ever met him. But this first time I met a lot of people that are now very dear friends of mine, like, you know, Tom Yamarone, and there was just
Mm,
a lot of people there. So
yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I just asked because both of you are highly respected in the community. So wanted to
uh,
get that little tidbit there. So
it's just because of my brain, but Bob is all the beauty. So that's
that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so speaking about living in the Yosemite area,
mhm.
have you had any interesting things happen?
In this area. I've had
Yeah,
several, but I do
really.
have sightings, but they're not from California. So,
Mm.
which is you have to go all the way across the United States to get a sighting. Yeah, around here I've seen, we've seen footprints, and we have a place that we used to Bigfoot all the time that would routinely, we would call blast and we'd get a response. And,
Oh
we've
wow.
seen broken trees, yeah, around here it's, and there are quite a bit of sightings, and a lot of them are crossing the road kind of situations, and they,
Okay.
scare the bejeebers out of the poor driver. But the sighting sightings that I had were actually in Oklahoma, because we're members of another group as,
Of course. Yep.
yeah, the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. And so we have spent quite a bit of time there. And so my first sighting, so think about, I mean, I believe in Bigfoot since I was, I don't know how old, a fifth grader, or however old I was when I
Yep.
saw
Okay.
let's say seven, until, I'm not going to reveal my age, but many, many, many years in hair dye boxes to cover the grave. Years later, I don't have a sighting until 2012. And
Wow.
so, that's a long time to still keep the faith and keep believing, but the footprints and other things I had seen were very convincing. And of course, being yelled at, all the way across a valley is very convincing too. So, but do you want me to tell you about that sighting?
Oh, yeah, totally. But I was just thinking, I was like, you don't hear. So if you're into Bigfoot, you don't hear too many people saying, "All right, forget this, I'm out." Like, I'm sure that happens, but it seems like if you're in it to begin with it, like you kind of stick with it. But
Well, no, there are people that have burned out
okay,
that
all
I
right.
used to hang or talk to on a regular basis that I haven't heard from in years,
Oh,
and
okay.
they just, lost interest, even though, and not, well, I they had sightings. And that's what I find weird, is if you have a
Wow,
sighting, you
that's
think you wouldn't give
well,
up, but I
each
think
to
it's
their own.
more other pressures, or
Sure.
something else happening. So,
Well,
but
yes. So you are referring to the N.A.W.A.C. Area X in southeast Oklahoma. Is that right? That area or the Big Mountain area?
yeah, so
Wichita,
it's called Ouachita National
Ouachita. Yeah. Yep.
Ouachita Mountains, but I call them Ouachitas because that's what the locals call
Nice.
it.
Oh,
And
okay.
so,
Okay, that's cool.
yeah, they pronounce the O. That's what they do. But yeah, and we were I've known members of the group for years and years and years. Alton Higgins,
Mm,
Gerald Collier. I mean, I've known them
yep.
for a very long time. And I was at a conference there in Texas, and they came up to me, and Bob, and said, we've got this area that is just amazing, and all this
Ooh.
stuff is happening, and blah blah blah. Would you guys be interested in coming out and seeing what you think, and what's going on? And my mom had been in a really, my mom, dad, brother-in-law, and sister had been in a bad car accident in November of
Mm,
2011.
mm,
And I was all like, I don't know that this is something that I can pull off. And my mom finally got out of the hospital. She was in the hospital from November until April. And just the stress of all of that, I talked to Bob, and I said, we need to just go somewhere,
mm-hmm.
do something crazy. It's just
Yep.
so we can just release the stress that we've been under, for all these months. And we said, why don't we go ahead and drive out there, stop by and see Bob's family in Dallas, Texas, we're only going to spend a week there. Oh, well, it's a week. If we don't like it, we'll just leave early. And so
Right.
that's what we decided to do. We made a little vacation of it. We kind of went to different sightseeings. We went by Grand Canyon, and poor
Oh,
Bob
nice.
still hasn't recovered from that. So I'm a very clumsy person, and he swore I was just going to fall in. And
Oh boy. Oh, that would be nerve wracking for
well, he
me
was
too.
pretty nervous. He was happy the second we got out of there. But um, so we arrived on a Sunday, and there was people already there, and
Okay.
so there's 4 cabins there that are. We have them, the north cabin, the east cabin. You have to orientate yourself because north in Oklahoma is not the same as north in California. I tell you, you're looking at
Oh, okay.
a completely different location, and so nothing happened on Sunday. It was really just boring and getting to know everybody and
Okay.
having a good time. And then Monday rolled around, and basically my life changed that day.
Wow.
That was the most profound, emotional day.
Oh man.
Besides, I guess your kids being bored. I guess I should
Well, yeah, that's a
my
given, right? Yeah. Yeah.
eh. um, but I don't remember quite what time it was, but let's say it's like mid afternoon. Uh, there was 5 of us there total. So
Okay.
basically the 4 of them were running around like they're being toyed with. So when a
Oh,
rock would hit a tin roof, because all the cabins have tin roofs,
okay.
the guys would run over there to check it out. And then the second they got over there, then a rock would hit another roof, and they'd run over there. So this is what they've been doing. They're just playing,
Oh man.
going around and around. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. It's just way too warm. It's in May.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, well, I'm just going to stay here. And there's a longer version of this story, but it takes too much time to go through it. But it's got a little more details.
Gotcha.
Anyway, they finally come back, and we're sitting around. Most of the fires that they have are, of course, in a fire ring outside, and we're sitting around this empty campfire. No fire was going because it wasn't cold. And I'm looking down, and we're all sitting in camp chairs, and I'm looking down this area. We call it the bottleneck because it's literally, I don't know if you've been to Oklahoma, but
I
essentially
have not. No.
the whole place is trying to kill you at any time. So,
Really?
well, yeah,
Oh.
it's got, you try to walk up the hill, you're hitting rocks. There's down trees. There's this stuff called greenbrier, which
Ooh.
is a thorny, um, kind of vinish looking plant that grabs
Okay.
shoes. I've lost my shoes more times than I'd like to count. There, where it
Oh
unties
man.
your shoelaces and pulls your shoe off. There's snakes everywhere.
Oh really?
It's
That's
just
not cool. No.
not pleasant.
No.
And that didn't include the spiders that are like this big.
Oh geez.
Yeah, that I walked through their spider webs more than a few times. Ugh. So we're sitting there, and I'm looking down this area. It's called the bottleneck. And the bottleneck is essentially the clearest, easiest walking spot on that is private property on this property. And then we call it the
Sure.
bottleneck because it's the only place if you're really going to catch anything, that's where you're going to get it because everywhere else it's so thick with brush and whatever, you're not going to get really clear
Got it.
glances.
Yep.
So we're sitting there, and one of the gentlemen that we were with, Mark, goes, man, I hear something walking. And we were like, okay, and we're
Mm.
listening, and we were wondering if it was our resident fox that comes by and looks for scraps and stuff. And then all of a sudden, I see a big one and a little one come into my frame of view, and they're doing some kind of weird thing. Like it was clear the big one wanted the little one to come with it, and the little one was intent on coming closer to us no matter what. I mean, that's what it
Oh
looked like. It's
wow.
like, no, no, we're going to go here. And the other one's going, no, no, no. And I think where they were headed was to try to get behind this shed.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you noticed, but there's not been a whole lot of women down there. And my voice is certainly
Not for
higher.
not what I've seen. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I always had the impression that the little one thought I was a little one because of the picture.
Oh yeah.
I
Okay.
don't prove it. I don't, that's just a speculation on my part.
Sure.
And so I bolt up, I jump up out of my chair, and I point at them and I go, there they are. And I ran at them.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, because I'm going to catch them. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get him. Yeah.
and they turned around and bolted up this hillside like
Wow.
they were on a bungee.
I
So
hear that over and over. Yeah.
it was I've never seen anything like it. And it was interesting because then there was no sound. So they weren't
Mm,
being quiet coming because I think they thought we were over at the other cabin,
okay.
investigating the rock throws. And I think they thought they had clear to come
Yep.
closer,
Yep.
and we caught them. Anyway, so they just go whoosh right up that hillside like it was nothing. And
Mm,
so of course, we all ran over there, and of the five people there, all four people saw the same thing. One person didn't see anything because he just didn't have the view of it. And had I not said anything to anybody, or not gotten up and yelled and ran towards them, there was
mm-hmm.
actually a camera that we had set there. And I'm the one who triggered it because I'm the one who ran past it. And so if they had just come just a little bit closer, we would have had them on film. But
Oh no. Oh
I
man.
know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it
Mm,
was, whoops.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and so
Mm,
and then from there it was just craziness. All craziness broke loose where we had so many things happen. It was just, but the day we drove out of there, we stopped at the where the road hits the another road where we turned to go
okay.
back to civilization, and we stopped there with our friend Brian Brown, and we got out of the car and we just looked dazed at each other, just like, we felt like we had just been put through Vietnam. That's how it felt. We
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
just traumatized, and because it was nonstop. It never stops. It was constant rock throws, constant something weird happening, constant
Mm,
of all these things, and you just never got a break. And so we actually talked about it all the way home. And I think we spent 6 months constantly talking about it. About we can't believe this actually happened. And the funny thing about it is that they look just like Patty from the Patterson Gimlin film. It's exactly what they look
no
like.
way.
Yep, exactly like.
Really? Well, I mean, of course they would, but like that for some reason blows my mind. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
they were dark, and then later in that week, Bob saw another one that was reddish in color.
Mm,
And so, and he said it looked
okay.
just like a Irish setter. It was just really pretty, and
Really?
yeah, I wish I'd seen that one.
Wow.
It would have been neat to see, but
That is
yeah, and
fascinating.
there's, if you read, we have on the website, if people want to visit
Mm-hmm.
the woodate.org,
Yep.
there's you can go to the Ouachita um, project what in the world is that called? Monograph. I was thinking of,
Yeah. Monolith is a whole different
yeah,
podcast
where that
episode.
came from. And you can read all the stuff that's happened because
Yeah.
we outline things that have been seen, things that have occurred, and
Okay.
it's really is we really try to run a scientific um, operation. That's we note everything, we take notes of everything that happens, we collect evidence, all that stuff that goes with that. So, but you can read up on it, and if you're interested in.
I personally checked it out before. So these are heavy duty, like almost scientific journal type papers. Like,
Yep.
yeah. I mean that, which is awesome. Like, hats off to, I mean, the guys and gals involved with this. Like, they like, I think they're some of the most serious.
Oh yeah.
That I mean, they are like, man, they are prepared and ready for action, and
Yep.
like no messing around. Like,
They don't
it's
mess around.
awesome.
We're all business when we're there, so nobody's allowed to drink alcohol. Nobody.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Okay.
yeah, we're
That's good.
very careful about what we do. And we have we have protocols. We have all these things that you have to know in order to even go. So, because we don't just let anybody go, you have to be a trusted person
Mm,
to
which
be
is
down
very
there.
good.
We don't want
Yep.
any incidents. We don't want somebody shooting a human because
No.
they're green or anything like that. That's the worst thing that could happen. And so anyway, and then I had another sighting the year after that, and then another one a year after that. And so it's
Mm,
been but then there's been times when we've been there where have absolutely nothing has happened, and you're just about to
interesting.
die from boredom and the heat and the bugs and everything. It's hit and miss when it's going to happen, because of course it's all sightings are random. You can't
Of
predict them.
course. Yeah. Yeah. And this was also featured in one of the episodes of Small Town Monsters on the Trail of Bigfoot, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. I remember the first time I watched that, because I had looked into Area X before, and then when I realized like one of the episodes of On the Trail of Bigfoot was going to Area X, I was like, this is amazing. Like, man, the footage in that is so good. Like,
Yeah,
it
he is.
really makes you feel like you're there. Yeah.
So it was we scared the poor guy, but we're a little intense, and so but he was such a nice person. He cracked me up. They showed up, I think, with to eat. All they had to eat was snowballs, jerky,
Were you
and
talking about Seth?
yeah, it was so, like,
Yeah.
because nobody ever believes us when we say it's you're really super remote. And I still
Yeah.
remember, so as a Forest Service employee, we have government trucks, and they're all four-wheel drive, and they mostly all have high clearance. And we have some really horrible, horrible roads, and I still gun down them. And believe me, that road into X is horrible. There
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
there were one time it was so bad. We're tilted like this, and I reached up.
Oh
We're in the
man.
car driving, and this is what we're driving on. And there's Bob above me now because we're so tilted. I'm going, oh, this is awful. And then there's one spot that we used to go that was there that it was just rock because the rain had just washed away all the soil, and I'm just going.
Wow.
And I remember last time we call our truck Bessie,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking to her. We're just interested in making it out. And I'm going, we'll never come back. We'll never come back. If you just get us out of here, please just let us live.
Nice.
So we try to come in and out as a group as much as possible in case somebody
That
encounters.
is smart. Yeah.
We were by ourselves then that day.
No one left behind.
No,
Definitely.
no, no,
That
yeah.
that might be another scenario entirely if you're the only one in there. I mean, I'm not to say, how the wood apes um act, but I mean, like, you never know, right? Like,
Yeah, well, you never do. And
yeah.
there have been people who have been in there weeks at a time by themselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
people
wow.
are hardcore. The the experience in 2012 was so intense. Bob and I made the decision to go back in
Hmm.
2013, but he would go for 3 weeks by himself
Whoa.
and there was other people there, but without me. And then when he came back, I went for 3 weeks. And so
Hmm.
um, that was, that's a lot to give, to
Yeah.
do that. It was wonderful experience for me. I mean, it was a little lonely. I remember the first week I was there, and it's really hard when your spouse isn't there. And that's definitely the longest we've ever spent away from each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember they're leaving, and I'm waiting for my next team to come. And it was all I could do not to go. No, God, please take me out of here. I gotta go. Take
Yeah.
this. And um, we had that the second week was it no the first week was just god awful. I mean, it was just constant stuff raining down on us, and we just couldn't get any sleep at all.
Oh, man.
And that was pretty much an all girl group, but we had Brian Brown there with us, and we had set up a surveillance system
Okay.
around the cabin to see if we could catch them moving, and it ended up that we could even see the IR ourselves because it was, I think it was good quality, but it was clearly putting off a light that was unnatural for the area, and so we didn't um, capture anything, but we used to call that our Bigfoot, our shield, because if you turned it on, nothing was going to happen because the animals can see it, and so they weren't coming anywhere near it. And that's the only time we got any rest.
Wow. Um, Question for you. What was there a situation where, so you have all this time where you're working with the tribes and you've got all these stories, passed down accounts in your head, and so you've built this view in your head of what Bigfoot looks like. Then you get out to Area X and you actually see it. What does that do to your mind? Is there like a big shift like that has to happen? Like, I don't know how I would handle that. Like, or maybe you had the idea of what it looked like already in your mind, or is there any did anything like that ever happen?
Yeah, I had in my mind that they looked like Patty. I mean,
Okay.
the tribes would always tell me, yeah, that's what they look like. They
Oh.
tribes fully support that being a real animal on that film. There's
Awesome.
Let there be no doubt of that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I always pictured, but she's not really fast in that film.
Right.
If you notice, she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
walk at lightning speed. So the
No.
only thing that really traumatized me, I guess, was the speed of them going up that hill. That
Hmm.
that I remember I turned around to Bob and I just said, "Well, we might as well go home because we can't win this." And he like
Oh
because
man.
anytime one of those things wanted to pick me up and carry me off, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I didn't. They looked like they were strong. They were very muscly. And
Mm.
in 2014, I saw the one that's called Old Gray, and
Okay.
he's monstrous. I mean,
Ooh.
monstrous. Where I saw him, I stayed put where my sighting was, and I sent them over to where I had seen him, so that we could compare in height. And here's that thing. Here's Bob.
Really?
And he's 6 foot tall.
Whoa.
It was huge. One of the largest things I've ever seen in my life. And I would have no doubt whatsoever that if
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to, he could even push the cabins down. I mean,
Mm.
it wouldn't surprise me at all that he was so large. And so
Wow.
I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for that size difference, kind of thing. Although it would make sense that, males would grow taller or bigger than a
Right.
female. I always made fun of those people who called them 8 footers or
Mm-hmm.
I used to make fun of the ones that used to. There's sightings where the Bigfoot kept up with the car driving. Ran
Oh yeah,
alongside.
sure. Right. Yeah.
Obviously, now I'm going, oops. I guess they are
Mm.
kind of that fast. And so there's those
Yeah.
kinds of things that I. The tribes had always told me, don't go outside if you hear whistling because the Bigfoot's trying to lure you out. We've heard whistling now.
Oh
Tribes have always
man.
said that they bang on trees with sticks. And so when you hear it, that doesn't surprise me. It wasn't those kinds of things. It was the things that um, basically I hadn't really been told, I guess, is the best things. No tribe had ever told me that they could get that large. So caught me off guard. Or that
Man,
they were super fast. So
that is crazy. So you mentioned that you saw some of I would imagine they're in a group there of some sort. And you saw some of the males. Are they extremely like wide across too as well? Or
I can say what I saw
okay.
of I think, and I cannot swear to it, that the first two I saw were a young female who was stuck babysitting her bratty little brother. That's, that was just my initial kind of because why I've always thought that is when they bolted, she went up first and did not wait for him at all. And so, as I would think, I've seen enough primate behavior. A mother is going to try to save her child first, right? That's what
Yeah,
chimpanzees do that.
exactly.
Gorillas protect
Exactly.
their young. So that's what why I thought that way is that she went, "You're on your own, sucker," and just went woo. And he was equally as fast, but you know what I mean. She was definitely in safety before he got there, but the only male I've seen, I saw him by profile, so I didn't get to see him across.
Ah,
I saw
okay.
him this direction, and so certainly seemed like he was wide, certainly.
Interesting. Very interesting. I've actually got a question that from Greg in the Patreon, who has it's kind of is in this area X area. So his question is: it must have been amazing to work with small town monsters in Area X. What's been your favorite or coolest moment while squatching? And I'm gonna think he's probably referring to an Area X, but up to your interpretation there, I guess.
Oh, proudest of. Um, well, I guess it's related to that, but Peter Burns, if you know him, he's one of the four
Mm-hmm.
original
Yes.
horsemen.
Yep.
Um, we were together at it's called Beachfoot, and it's in Oregon.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he picked up his chair and came over and started talking to me. Wanted to hear about my sighting,
Oh, wow.
and he asked me tons of questions. We had knew each other for a while, but not never had a real in depth conversation. And Peter is very much so a firm believer, very stout firm believer that Bigfoot can only be in the Pacific Northwest. I mean,
Really? Okay.
and
Okay.
so I told him this story, and then right after that, we get interviewed for a podcast. Laura Krantz had done it,
Yeah. Yep. Wild Thing.
Wild Thing,
Yep. Great
and he's
podcast. Yeah.
interviewing myself, Bob, and then Peter Byrne,
Mm-hmm.
and he admitted, he goes, based on Kathy's sighting, I'm now going to have to admit that there's Bigfoot in other places.
Oh wow.
North America, and I said I'm going to give her Oklahoma, and so that's what I'll say from now on. And I just went,
Amazing.
whoa. And I
Wow.
remember even I mentioned that to Dr. Meldrum, and he went, holy cow. And he goes, you don't know what a that is. And I was like, well, yeah, I do. I mean, so I think that's what I'm more
Yeah.
proud of, is that he took that I'm an anthropologist and what I saw, and took it
Mm-hmm.
very seriously, that, okay, maybe I been discounting the rest of the United States
Mm. Yeah.
too much.
Man, that must have been one of those things where it made all those years of hard work worth it. Just like,
I, I,
yeah, dude,
I
this
took
is
a
it.
picture of the moment, and I have it on my
Yeah.
phone and show people, go, see,
Oh,
this is the moment
so
Bigfoot
good.
came in.
That
So
is so cool. Man. Oh man, very cool. Very cool. Um, this has been such a fun chat. You still active? Are you and Bob still actively going to Area X then, or?
we did not go last year because I injured my knee on the
Oh,
job.
okay, okay.
And
Oh,
so my knee is just in bad shape. And of course, this year was COVID, but
yeah, right.
the,
Yeah.
the operations are still going. And then we're talking about, if we come out of this COVID,
Mm-hmm.
probably going this coming year, because we miss it. And
Yeah.
I guess another way of saying what I'm proud of is it hasn't killed me yet, so I keep going back.
Good
And I've
point.
seen some snakes that would, I don't even know why
Oh,
I would go back to that, because I hate snakes.
yeah. I'm in central Iowa, and like it's okay in central Iowa. You get to southern Iowa and you got some crazy snakes there, but like Oklahoma sounds way worse. So
Ugh,
I don't know.
it's they're everywhere, and there's all kinds of different types. And just one other little story, but it was really funny, is
Yeah.
we're sitting down and eating dinner, and here comes a copperhead out of nowhere,
Oh my goodness.
runs up Bob's leg
Whoa.
over him, and then heads for our tent. And Bob
Oh
didn't
man.
spill a drop of his dinner, but Brian Brown, who was there, dumped his dinner all over himself, because it was such a shocking event. I mean, it just came right at him. And so
Wow.
just like,
Yeah.
and then it went veered off and then headed out. It was just like, and there was plenty of other places for that snake to go. He didn't have to come towards us, but,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember, but here's Bob, got his dinner, didn't spill a bit. And I'm looking at it, making sure it doesn't go in our tent, because that's my main concern, is that we're just going to have to burn the tent down if it gets in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps going all its way. And I just thought, yeah, I knew I married a cool man, but now I really know.
There you go. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Man. Thank you so much for coming on, Kathy. Like this has been just fantastic. What are I'm sure most people listening to this have heard of you, but if people are new and wanting to keep up with you, what are things that you would recommend? If
I,
we
I,
can talk about your book again, other things like that.
I would really recommend. That is a good lead on for. Let me check the date. I'm going to be on a
Oh,
new television series. It's
whoa,
called
really?
Proof is out there.
The proof
I
is out
believe it's
there.
January 8th.
Okay.
And it's going to follow. I feel awful because I don't watch this show, but a lot of people do. But it's the Mysteries of Oak Island, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And so it's immediately going to follow that program. So I believe it's January 5th. And if I look at my phone
Mm-hmm.
really quick, um, but Cliff Barackman is on it as well.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
it's called The Proof is Out There. Oh, yeah, January 5th, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It's right after The Curse of Oak Island.
Oh, okay. Is
So
let's see what channel.
I don't know what channel that is. I
I
watched
feel
the
terrible.
cooking.
That's History Channel. It's History
Yeah,
Channel.
should be the
Yeah,
history.
totally.
Yeah. So yeah, I know it's
Sorry,
great.
History Channel.
Well, it's A&E, and A&E owns all of those channels
Oh,
now.
okay. Yeah, true, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway, it's the series is about us as investigators looking at
Oh,
videos or things that people have filmed or taken pictures of, and then
okay.
applying our specialties, mine being anthropology
Hmm.
and a Bigfooter, to that, and then saying what we think maybe what's really going on there. And there were definitely several that really impressed me. That
Wow.
yeah, one I think is probably one of the most significant videos ever taken in anthropology in the last 50 years.
Really
I mean, sincerely
amazing.
incredible. Yeah. So
Well, I think we'll definitely be checking that. That sounds pretty cool.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And otherwise than that, keep up with woodape.org, and I'm on Facebook, and you're welcome to contact me anytime.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.